Good afternoon, Mr. President. It is a great day to be on this House. I am a tenant, Mr. President. I am born and raised in Puerto Rico, as I've said many times on this floor. Came to New York in 1998, lived for a very short period of time in a dorm room on 44th between 6th and Broadway. Then I moved up to East Harlem, where I bounced around a couple of apartments for a year, and ultimately found my way to the Boogie Down Bronx. Spoke many times about the Bronx on this chamber floor. I moved into an apartment that was a studio, which back in 2000 was $600 for a studio, in a bedroom in a community that I still couldn't, believe that it was the Bronx, because it was the first time that I'd really been up there. I fell in love with it, and I still live there in this building to this day. I actually moved as soon as I won from a studio to a one-bedroom, and that's where I've been living since then. So I am a tenant. As I've said many times, I would not be able to live in this city or thrive in this city or in this state were it not for rent stabilization. But the fact is that considering the people that I represent, 318,000 of them, I am lucky. I am quite privileged. We certainly can have a conversation about whether we have the salary that we should have, but the fact is that compared to my constituents, who to this day, Mr. President, less than $30,000 a year median income. And when you consider that my district, the 33rd district in the Northwest Bronx, has the second highest number of units in the entire state, about 67,000 right now. And Mr. President, the last time that we had this debate, I said on the floor that I had 70,000 units of rent-stabilized apartments in my district, and it was a fact. But now I have 67,000. And every one of those units is an affordable unit that is no longer available to the type of folks that currently live in the Bronx and that find that they have less and less places to be able to live or thrive in the city or the state of New York. So what we're doing here today, as has been said before, is historic. Because for once, in a long time, Mr. President, we actually have the tenants, there are many of them that are here to join us today, who are being victorious. Because the changes that we are making, the incredible changes that we're making today, certainly, as many of my colleagues will probably guess, I am one of the crazy lefties here, so I do think that there's some places that we could have gone a little farther. But the reality is that I am ecstatic about the package that we're passing today. And the main difference is this, ladies and gentlemen. Why is it that it's so important that we get this done? It is important that we get this done because the system that exists currently, before we pass this piece of legislation, encourages and incentivizes bad landlords to use housing as a speculative commodity. There's a lot of technical words there, but ultimately what that means is that you have people that are making decisions about the property that they own without considering the people who live in those homes who, if they didn't have rent stabilization, would have nowhere to live. We are changing the system to make sure that we go away from a system of incentivizing using this housing as a commodity. We want to disincentivize that. We want to eliminate the speculative market. We want to make sure that we get people a place that they can live. From Buffalo to the Bronx to everywhere in the state, we are protecting people because not only are we dealing with rent-stabilized tenants, we are now dealing with farther protections. The conversation that we had on the floor about tenants who live in mobile homes. These are things that are certainly not in the Bronx, Mr. President, but the reality is that we need to protect them too, and we are doing this in this piece of legislation. And we are putting protections in place which will make sure that tenants are protected everywhere in this state. This is a historic day. As has been said before, I will thank my leader who made sure that we put this in a highest priority. I will thank both Senator Myrie and Senator Kavanaugh, who both, and by the way, up here, I stay in a little apartment that I share with Senator Kavanaugh. So when Senator Myrie said that he was tirelessly working on this, he was absolutely right. I would get home at 10:30 or 11 and I would go to sleep and then I would be woken by somebody coming in at 2 a.m. in the morning, eating a sandwich and getting right back to the office. I'm not even lying, Mr. President. This is the type of stuff that he put this work in. The staff has done an incredible job. But most of all, and I want to finish with this, Mr. President, I want to thank the tenants. Specifically, I want to point out two organizations, CASA and the Northwest Bronx Community Clergy Coalition, which are in the heart of my district and have been relentlessly fighting for the changes that we're seeing on this floor today. It is those folks that I think have deserved all the credit. And as was stated earlier by Senator Myrie, without them, we would not be here today. We celebrate you, but more importantly, we protect you today. I am very glad to be voting in the affirmative, Mr. President, on this piece of legislation. I encourage my colleagues to do the same. Bottom line, it is a historic day. We want to make sure that people can live and thrive in this state. We will continue to protect tenants. This is a historic piece of legislation. Incredibly proud to be here. Thank you, tenants. Thank you, my leader. Thank you, my colleagues and my staff. I vote in the affirmative.